The story begins in the rolling hills of old North Carolina, in a time when the nation itself was still learning how to stand. The year was 1778, and Abraham, a soldier, a patriot, and a man of fierce conviction, had already carved his name into the pages of the Revolution. He was not born to wealth, but to willpower. He fought in the Revolutionary War, served as commissioner of Tryon County, and by that same year became its justice of the peace. He was known as a stern man, sharp in wit, proud in bearing, and never one to waste a word. Even in his youth, Abraham's eyes held a glint of gold, not the kind that glittered, but the kind that dreamed. As the years turned and his youth faded like smoke over the Blue Ridge, Abraham moved west, deep into the wilderness that would one day become Asheville. He was in his 80s now, body bent but mind still keen as ever. The land stretched wild and endless before him, green valleys and misty mountains rising in soft blue waves. He had lost his first wife, a quiet, kind woman who had walked beside him through war and peace, and now had taken another. But Seba, young, beautiful, and restless. Her eyes sparkled not with love of life, but love of things, ribbons, mirrors, silver combs, lace. The kind of woman who found joy in the shine of coins rather than the soil that earned them. Abraham, however, was a man of order and control. His land grant, more than 1,000 acres, stretched across what would soon be called Flat Rock. There, he built an inn and tavern for travelers who passed along the old state road, that dusty artery of trade connecting Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. Flat Rock was no grand city. It was a crossroad, but it was his. Wagons rolled by every hour, cattle bawled in pens, and smoke curled from his tavern chimney, carrying laughter, drink, and the soft rattle of gold coins. And gold it was, only gold and silver that Abraham would take. He trusted no paper, no promises, no man's ink. To him, wealth was something you could hold, heavy and certain in your hand. But gold breeds fear, and fear breeds secrets. By 1805, the old state road had become one of the busiest routes in the Carolinas. Stagecoaches, farmers, and peddlers came through day and night, their wheels carving lines into the red dirt that led straight to Abraham's door, inside the tavern. The crackle of the hearth mixed with laughter and the ring of mugs on oak tables. Abraham moved among the crowd, tall and wiry despite his age, his eyes sharp as ever. But Seba watched from the stairway, her silk shawl glimmering in the firelight. She loved the tavern's noise, the strangers, the goods they carried. And most of all, she loved the heavy lockboxes Abraham kept behind the counter, the ones that clinked when he moved them. Abraham, she teased one evening, you hide that gold away like it's a sin to spend it. He didn't look at her. Gold's the only honest thing left in this world, he muttered, and I'll not see it wasted on trinkets. Her smile faltered, but only for a moment. Then perhaps your gold will comfort you more than your wife. He didn't answer, but something inside him hardened. That night, Abraham sat alone in his study, the candlelight dancing across his weathered hands. The room smelled of ink and pine smoke. He unlocked his strong boxes, one by one. Coins of gold and silver gleamed like captured fire. He knew he could not guard them forever. But Seba's eyes had grown too curious, too cunning. So he made a decision, one that would bind his fortune to the earth and his name to legend. He would hide it. It was a night heavy with silence. The moon hung pale and watchful over Flat Rock, and the pines whispered secrets in the wind. Abraham lit a single lantern, its flame shivering against the darkness. Outside, two of his strongest slaves waited, confused and uneasy. He trusted them, trusted their strength, if not their freedom. Come with me, he said. His voice was firm, but low, as if the trees themselves might be listening. He led them to the back of the property, to where the forest thickened near a spring. The path was narrow, the earth damp, and the hoot of an owl broke the silence like a warning. After a while, he stopped. A great white oak stood there, bent and twisted as though bowing to the earth. Its roots curled over a small spring that gurgled softly beneath the moonlight. Here, Abraham said. He lifted the heavy wash pot they had carried, filled with gold and silver coins, the weight of years and toil. The metal glinted in the lantern light, dazzling even in shadow. Dig, he ordered. The slaves obeyed, shovels striking earth with dull thuds. The hole grew deep, dark, wide enough for the pot and the ghost it would someday breed. When it was ready, Abraham lowered the pot himself, his hands trembling. He felt a chill, perhaps from the spring, perhaps from something deeper. He watched as the men covered the hole, stamping the soil flat, scattering leaves over it until it looked like any other patch of forest floor. Then quietly he spoke. "You will not speak of this night, not to a soul. Should a word pass your lips, you'll wish death found you first." The men nodded, silent, afraid. He blindfolded them again and led them back along the path, counting each step. Behind them, the forest fell still. Only the spring whispered, guarding its secret beneath the bent white oak. Years passed. Seasons turned. The road grew busier, the tavern louder. Abraham's fortune sat buried beneath the forest, untouched, his one comfort, his one curse. But time is a thief even gold cannot bribe. By the time Abraham reached his 104th year, his hands shook, his eyes dimmed, but his mind still clung to the past. But Seba had long since left him, or perhaps he had driven her away. The tavern stood quiet now, its walls creaking with memory. One spring morning, he sat by the fire, staring into the flames. His servant approached cautious. "Master, you've not eaten." Abraham waved him off. "I'm not hungry. I need my gold." He rose, slow, deliberate, and fetched a walking stick. Without another word, he stepped out into the daylight, his figure bent but proud, his eyes distant. He walked the old path, the one that led into the woods. The air was thick with the scent of earth and pine. Each step seemed heavier, slower. He reached the place at last. The spring, the bent white oak, now older, gnarled, twisted deeper into the ground. The water shimmered faintly in the sunlight, cold and clear. He looked around, confused. The landmarks had changed. The years had shifted the land. Still, he knelt beside the spring, his breath trembling. He leaned closer, perhaps too close. A root caught his foot. The ground gave way, and in an instant, Abraham fell forward, face first into shallow water. The ripples spread quietly, then stillness returned. Hours later, when they found him, the spring was calm again, and the gold still slept beneath the earth untouched. After Abraham's death, the slaves came forward with trembling voices, telling the story they'd kept for decades of the wash pot, the spring, the oak. Word spread quickly across the county. The locals whispered of Abraham's buried fortune, a treasure lost, agreed, and guarded by a restless spirit. Men came from miles away to search the woods. They dug by lantern light, followed the curve of every stream, the shadow of every oak. Some claimed to find marks on trees, strange carvings like warnings. Others swore they heard the sound of footsteps, the creak of an old cane, and the whisper of a man's voice telling them to turn back. One hunter told of a figure, tall, stooped, wearing an old colonial coat, standing by the spring at dawn. When he called out, the figure vanished into mist. Some said the treasure was cursed, that any man who sought it met misfortune. And indeed, a few did. One fell ill and died within a week of digging near the spring. Another disappeared entirely, his camp found abandoned. Still, the legend grew. The woods of Flat Rock became a place of mystery, a whisper in the night. Parents warned their children not to wander too far, lest the old man's ghost mistake them for thieves. More than 2 centuries have passed since Abraham's last walk into the forest. The old state road has become a memory, its path now paved and forgotten beneath modern traffic. But deep within the forest of Flat Rock, the earth still breathes with history. The spring still flows, quiet, cold, eternal. The bent white oak is gone, or perhaps it stands somewhere else, transformed by time. But those who know the story say the place still holds a strange silence, as if the land itself remembers. Treasure hunters still come, drawn by greed or curiosity. They bring metal detectors, ground scanners, maps drawn from whispers and half-forgotten tales. They dig in the night, just as Abraham once did, their flashlights sweeping across the trees. And sometimes, just before dawn, they say they see him, an old man in a tattered coat, moving slowly through the mist, searching, searching for the gold he buried or the piece he never found. No one has ever uncovered the wash pot. The spring guards it still, the water cool and unbroken. Perhaps it lies beneath layers of clay, or perhaps the earth swallowed it whole long ago. But the legend remains, told in taverns, passed between travelers, whispered by the fire. Some say Abraham still keeps watch, his spirit bound to the treasure he hid from the woman he loved. Others believe the gold was never meant to be found, that it was his test, his punishment, his pride turned to dust. And so, in the quiet woods of Flat Rock, the story endures. The forest sighs with wind and water. The spring murmurs, eternal. And beneath its surface, somewhere in the dark, cold soil, lies a pot filled with the dreams of a man who could not let go. The lost Flat Rock gold still waits.